I've done everything in this game. Found the rare items, built farms, played every class. I've got every achievement, except this one which glitched out, and yeah, there's no way you're making me fish like it's a full-time job. And I could do challenge runs, where I have to beat the game with whips only, upside down, and if I jump I have to reset the world. But it's just not the same, and there's a reason nobody does that except YouTubers. This is one of the new achievements I've added to Terraria. You obtain it by running over 250 miles per hour horizontally, and it requires a certain setup that's different from the inner tube exploit that you probably know about. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. I want to create achievements that will get you to think about how to obtain them, and give new goals to keep you busy. So I asked you for ideas, which I sorted by difficulty. Let's start with a comment from Bad Streamer, telling us to defeat any boss in one hit. This is not possible. The best you can do with a fully optimized loadout is one-shot Journey Mod King Slime, and it is not possible to do it in any higher difficulty. But it's fun, and I made the Absolute Overkill achievement, which requires you to deal over 3000 damage in a single sniper shot to a blue slime. You will need a setup like this, and the trick is that you actually need a banner to increase your damage dealt to blue slimes specifically, which is the reason you can't do this on bosses. And it is absolutely possible in classic mod with less accessories, but you'll need a good RNG on the damage variance for your hit. Next up, we have a comment from White Tiger. Sightseeing. Bring the Eye of Tulu to every surface biome in one night. This is very simple, but super creative. Exactly what I wanted for this mod. Instead of only adding naturally generated biomes to the list, I picked every biome with a surface variant, like Glowing Mushroom, the Halo, and both the Crimson and the Corruption. The achievement requires some setup, because you need to manually plant some biomes and to be in hard mode for the Halo. Which is fine, because most players would wait until they have wings before doing this anyways. So I did have a few criteria when making these achievements. I don't want to force players to create a new world or character, so it's not possible to softlock any of my achievements. This rules out any idea like beating the game without taking any damage or by using a single weapon type. I don't want the achievements to be about finding a single item, like the Terra Prisma or the Dirtiest Block, because you already got the reward for finding the item itself. No endless grinding either, like obtaining a full stack of platinum coins or mining every tile in the world, because I don't think that's fun or interesting, it's just tedious. This includes pooping in every toilet. This guy made the mod of redemption, by the way. The next achievement was suggested by GGS Place. High five, hit Moonlord's hands with the slap hand. I changed it slightly and made it Skeletron instead of the Moonlord. Both because I already have something planned for Moonlord, which is probably the hardest achievement in the mod, and because I'm convinced that some players don't actually know you can refight Skeletron by using a Clothier Voodoo Doll. To be fair, what are you gonna do that for? The Book of Skulls? Barometz, one of the forum team members, suggested Spat Rip, which requires the player to spend 5 minutes in lava without using any lava immunity. I lowered it to 3, because if you can spend 3 minutes in lava, you can probably spend 5, and this is all things considered a pretty easy achievement. Defense and damage reduction both reduce lava damage. You can even dodge it with items like the Brain of Tulu or parry it if you're using my Guardian class. Team Wolf, suggested by Enrich on Discord, asks you to defeat a vampire with a true melee weapon while using the Lilith necklace transformation. This is a Twilight reference. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's a cool achievement. Back to more complex ones. Jupiterian Soul on YouTube suggested this is fine, asking to sit on a chair while on fire. And I think this is actually too simple, so I changed it a bit. The character in the meme is drinking from a cup, so I added the requirement of drinking from a teacup while sitting on the chair. Unlike most food items, teacups are obtained from the teapot, which is crafted from clay blocks and bones, which I bet you didn't know about. Instead of just the On Fire debuff, I added both Frostburn and Cursed Inferno. The only way to get the Frostburn debuff as a player is from Ice Elementals, and Cursed Inferno can be inflicted by Clingers, Vile Gauls, and Spasmatism. So in order to get the debuff, you'll need to kite an Ice Elemental, preferably to a Vile Gaul because their debuff lasts longer, get hit by the Elemental Projectiles until you get its debuff, get hit by the Gaul for the Cursed Inferno debuff, dip in lava, defeat both of them so they don't knock you out of the chair, and get your drink, which is a bit too complex, both because of the very tight window for the debuffs on lower difficulties, and because the player might just die doing so in higher difficulties. The achievement now requires both On Fire and either Frostburn or Cursed Inferno, so it's actually possible, but still requires an interesting setup. Take Back the Throne, suggested by QNex on Discord, requires the player to bounce a bunch of times on the Queen Slime while using the Slimy Saddle mount. There isn't a lot to it, it's just fun. This next one was actually suggested by multiple people. Because the jungle temple is heavily themed around traps, it's fitting to have an achievement for dealing a significant amount of damage to golem using them, which can be a bit challenging if you're trying not to hurt yourself in the process. And finally, for the easy category, we have Cut Down to Size, suggested by Raine on Discord. It requires defeating any of the mechanical bosses by using only true melee damage. The mechanical bosses are the moment where the melee class starts to move away from an actual melee gameplay. At this point, viable weapons are often straight up ranged, like the Shadow Flame knife, and the few swords that the developers want us to use have been massively buffed to make them more attractive, like the Excalibur. This achievement essentially forces the player to deal with either Skeleton Prime or the Destroyer with a titanium or adamantite broadsword, which can be challenging, even though the weapon should technically be on tier for these bosses. And no, you're not defeating the twins with an adamantite broadsword, I don't believe you. Because I don't want players to cheese my achievements with endgame gear, my boss fight achievements for early to mid-game bosses have gear restrictions that the player must follow. For instance, the highest rarity that players can obtain before defeating all 3 mechanical bosses is light purple, and therefore, it is the rarity limit for the gear that players can equip for the cut down achievements. I'm aware that some items don't exactly follow this rarity system logic. For example, items crafted with a shiny red balloon are all light red, which is used for early hard mode items. And the bundle of balloons is actually of yellow rarity, which is used for post-plantera loot, despite it being a pre-hard mode accessory. Moving on to the next difficulty, silver achievements. If the Cooper ones would require less than 30 minutes to obtain for the average player, then this should be obtained in less than an hour, with a well-geared character. Still suggested by Israelian, we have Fire in the Hole, which requires you to defeat a Flying Dutchman only by using cannonballs. If you didn't know, or forgot about, which I personally did, the pirate NPC sells a cannon, which you can buy to fire cannonballs. In order to use it, you have to place it, orient it by right-clicking, then left-click it with a cannonball to fire it, which deals some damage. This achievement is both easier and harder than I expected. Even if you have the gear to survive the Dutchmen and pirates, it's pretty hard to aim properly, and will take a while because of it. You'll be able to use your own weapons to defeat the pirates spawned by the mini-boss, as long as you're careful not to hit the Dutchmen with them. A lot of you suggested how did we get there, which is a Minecraft achievement obtained by having every buff in the game active at once. In Terraria, the player cannot have more than 44 buffs at once, and I don't know if it's possible to actually do that without mods, so I scrapped the idea. Another option would be to have every debuff in the game active on the player at once, which again, even if there are less than 44, is not possible. Try to drink a red potion and you'll see why. This leaves me with 2 interesting options, either obtain a significant amount of buffs or a significant amount of debuffs at once. I think collecting debuffs is more interesting than crafting a bunch of potions and pressing the quick buff hotkey, so here we go. You'll need 15 vanilla debuffs, excluding special seed ones like the Don't Starve food debuff, or ones with blue icons because they can be easily mistaken for buffs. First, get a water and a shadow candle for their respective debuffs, applied by standing near them. Go underground and get hit by an armored skeleton for the broken armor debuff, which lasts between 2 and 5 minutes depending on your difficulty. Go in the desert during a sandstorm for the mighty winds debuff. Step on spikes for the bleeding debuff. Dip in lava for the on fire debuff. Use a dart trap to get poisoned. Use a mana and a healing potion for the mana and potion sickness debuffs. Drink a beer for the tipsy debuff. Use a Rod of Discord for chaos state. Throw a sting potion at yourself. Stand on a burning block like meteorite for burning. Drop sand on your head for the suffocation debuff. And you're gonna have to find your own solution for the last one. Playing on expert, you can get hit by a bat for feral bite, which might actually help by giving you more random debuffs over time. Or you can get splashed by another player using the water gun. I think 15 debuffs is fair, and while I could have pushed it to 20 with some teleporting around, I think it's better this way, so the achievement is possible both in single player and in classic mode. Our next achievement was suggested by NeilFame07. Old Fashioned. Defeat the Eye of Tulu with Shuriken. If you've played Terraria since the beginning, or tried one of the legacy versions of the game on Steam, Shurikens were actually a pretty popular method to deal with the Eye of Tulu back then. And that's how a lot of older players, including me, beat the boss for the first time. Just like the broadsword achievement for the mechanical bosses, I gave a blue rarity limit on the player's equipment, which is the rarity for most early game chest loot and accessories. And I think it will make for a pretty fun challenge. Next up, we have a Living Wall, which is adapted from Lil Lizard's comment, asking us to get 150 defense. I think it's a cool concept, although it is made easier by using mods like Thorium, which add strong accessories, or post-Moon Lord gear. I pushed it to the limit, asking for 190 defense in normal mode and 200 in expert or master mode, which is barely possible with a setup that you might be able to figure out. You'll need the Dryad for her Dryad's Blessing buff, a Bast statue, and either the Brand of the Inferno or the Sergeant United shield, alongside specific accessories and armor, which I'll let you find by yourself. The last medium difficulty achievement I have is Pollen the Strings, which you get by landing the final blow on the queen bee with a statue-spawned enemy. If you didn't know, the bees, including the queen bee, can take and inflict damage to other enemies. And one of the cheese strategies of all times is to use hard mode enemy statues like the Mimic or Unicorn ones to actually deal with the boss for you. It's probably easier to just damage the boss yourself, but that's why the achievement is there, because it's a cool mechanic that people might learn about with it. And finally, we have 4 achievements in the hard or gold category that will either take a considerable amount of grinding, preparation, or skill to be pulled off. The first one is Shiny Crawlies, which requires obtaining every gold critter in the game, which I think is cool because gold critters are exciting and often overlooked. Like, did you know there's a gold water strider and a gold seahorse? But at the same time, there's very little skill or preparation involved in getting them, which can be frustrating, especially for players looking to obtain all the achievements as fast as possible. So if one achievement has to go, it will be this one. Dwarf Fortress is a reference to a popular management game where the player has to survive against armies of goblins by building complex defenses. The achievement is about doing the same in Terraria, and defeating an entire goblin army without attacking a single goblin yourself. You can use traps, NPCs, and lava pits to help you. But if you deal damage to any goblin with your weapons or accessories, the achievement fails and you'll need to try again. A lot of players consider the Lunatic Cultist to be a very easy boss for the time you fight it. Merely a pushover asks you to defeat it by only using gear of orange quality or lower, which is pre-hard mode gear, minus the shiny red balloon upgrades for some reason. Mobility will be hard to manage, but the fight is absolutely possible for dedicated players. The hardest achievement in the mod, which is also the one I teased in the community post for this video, is the Toothpick. You'll need to defeat the Moonlord while holding a copper short sword from the moment the boss appears to its defeat. And you're not allowed to use any sentries or summon damage. If your first instinct is to use the copper short sword to damage the boss, this is clearly not the way to do it. And the Moon Leech Clots, which the boss spawns, will out-heal your damage anyways, since they give 1000 health to the boss if not destroyed within 1.5 seconds, and they have 400 health. But holding a copper short sword doesn't mean it has to be your source of damage. You can use armor sets like the Chlorophyte or Forbidden ones, which will deal damage by themselves, accessories like the Spore Sack, mounts, and NPCs can help you deal some damage too. But most importantly, you're allowed to use lingering weapons before the fight starts, and trigger things like fireworks that will deal massive damage to the boss. This achievement was inspired by Mappy's videos, and if you can pull it off, you'll most likely have learned quite a bit about the technical aspects of the game, which is why I made this mod in the first place. I honestly don't like asking for subscribers, especially in the beginning of videos, which is why I do it at the end. But I know this is hurting my channel, because people just don't subscribe if I don't ask. So please, if you enjoy my work and want to see more videos in the future, consider subscribing so I can maybe do this full time one day. Thanks a lot for watching. You can find a link to the workshop page of the mod in the description.